I didn't think anything weird would happen when I called an electrician. I mean, why would it? My lights had been flickering for 2 days straight, and by the third night, half my apartment just gave up completely. The living room went dark, the kitchen lights started buzzing like it was about to explode, and suddenly the silence felt way too loud. So yeah, I called for help. What I didn't expect was Dominic. When I opened the door, I actually paused for a second. He was not what I pictured. Tall, easily taller than me. Broad shoulders filling the doorway like he barely fit in it. Dark hair, slightly messy, like he ran his hand through it instead of combing it. And his eyes sharp, focused, like he was already analyzing everything about me in one glance. "You Thomas?" he asked. His voice was low, calm, confident in that effortless way. "Yeah," I said, stepping aside. "Come in." He walked past me, and I immediately noticed how grounded he felt. Like every step had weight. Not heavy, just solid. Professional. Controlled. Dangerously calm. He set his toolbox down and glanced around the apartment once, quick and efficient. "Lights flickering?" he asked. "Yeah." Then half of them just died. He nodded like that confirmed something in his head. "Breaker or wiring? We'll see." No small talk. No awkwardness. Just straight to work. I tried to act normal, sat on the couch, grabbed my phone, but I kept looking over at him without meaning to. It wasn't just that he looked good. It was the way he worked. Focused. Precise. Every movement intentional. His hands moved like he'd done this 1,000 times and probably had. At some point, he crouched near the panel and didn't even look at me when he spoke. "Flashlight." "Oh yeah, wait." I got up too quickly, almost tripping over the edge of the rug like an idiot, and grabbed the small flashlight from the kitchen drawer. When I handed it to him, he finally looked up at me. And yeah, that was a mistake. Because up close, it hit harder. His gaze wasn't just focused, it lingered. Just for a second too long to feel casual. "Hold it," he said. I blinked. Okay." He shifted slightly to the side, making space for me. "Here," he added. "I need both hands." So I crouched down next to him. At first, it was fine. Normal. I pointed the beam toward the panel while he started working, tools clicking softly in his hands. "Higher," he said. I adjusted. "Closer." I leaned in a bit. "Closer, Thomas." That time, my breath caught slightly. I moved in again, and now, yeah, we were too close. Our shoulders almost touching. My arm brushing his every time I adjusted the angle. I could feel the heat from his body, subtle but impossible to ignore. And he didn't move away. If anything, he shifted slightly toward me. "You nervous?" he asked casually. "No." I said way too fast. He smirked. I could see it from the corner of my eye. "Your hand says otherwise." I glanced down. Shit. The light was shaking slightly. "I'm just trying to keep it steady," I muttered. He hummed, not sounding convinced at all. Then his hand moved. Just briefly, but enough. His fingers brushed against mine as he adjusted something inside the panel. It wasn't necessary. At least, I don't think it was. I froze for a second, my grip tightening on the flashlight. "Relax," he said quietly. That word hit differently. Not like advice. More like a suggestion. Or maybe a test. I swallowed. "I am relaxed." He let out a soft breath, almost amused. "Sure you are." The room felt warmer all of a sudden. Or maybe it was just me. "Angle's off," he added. "It's not. It is." Before I could argue, his hand closed lightly over mine, guiding, adjusting the flashlight. But he didn't let go right away. My brain short-circuited, because now his hand was over mine, steadying it, his fingers firm but not rough. And the proximity God, it was impossible to ignore now. I could feel his shoulder pressed slightly against mine. His breath, slow and controlled. Like none of this affected him at all. "Better," he said. But he still didn't move his hand. I didn't either. I should have. I knew I should have. But instead, I stayed there, completely still, letting it happen. A few seconds passed. Then he leaned in just a little more, close enough that I felt it before I even realized it. "Thomas," he said quietly. "Yeah. You always do what you're told this easily." My heart slammed against my ribs. What?" He finally looked at me again. And this time, there was no pretending. Something had definitely shifted. And I had a feeling. This wasn't about the lights anymore. I should have pulled my hand away. That's the part one keep thinking about. Because the moment he asked that, "You always do what you're told this easily," something in my head screamed at me to move, to laugh it off, to break whatever this weird tension was before it got worse. But I didn't. I just stayed there, his hand still over mine, both of us holding that stupid flashlight like it suddenly mattered way more than it should. I'm just helping, I said, but my voice came out quieter than I intended. Dominic didn't answer right away. He was still looking at me, his expression unreadable, but there was something behind it now. Something sharper, more focused. Yeah, he said finally. That's what I said too. That didn't help. If anything, it made my chest tighten more. His hand slowly slid away from mine, but not completely. His fingers dragged slightly against my skin as he pulled back, like he wasn't in a hurry to let go. Then he turned back to the panel like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just completely lost my ability to think straight. Hold it steady, he said. I nodded, even though he wasn't looking at me. Got it. For a few seconds, things felt almost normal again. Almost. But the silence between us wasn't the same anymore. It wasn't neutral. It was heavy, charged in a way that made every small movement feel intentional. I tried to focus on the light, on keeping my hand from shaking again, but it was useless. I was hyper-aware of everything. The way his shoulder brushed mine when he shifted. The way his arm occasionally pressed against mine as he worked. The way he seemed completely calm, while I was very much not. You live alone? He asked suddenly. Yeah. No roommates. No boyfriend. The last word hit differently. I hesitated just a second too long. No, I said. That was it. Just that quiet sound again. But it felt like he filed the answer away somewhere. Why? I asked, trying to sound casual. That part of the inspection too? That got a small reaction. A faint smirk. Just making conversation. Didn't seem like your thing. It's not, he admitted. Then why now? He paused. Actually paused this time. Then he leaned back slightly, just enough to glance at me again. Because you're distracting, he said. My brain stopped. What? You keep moving, he added, like that explained everything. I'm literally holding a flashlight. Exactly. That didn't make any sense. Or maybe it did, and I just didn't want to admit it. I shifted slightly, trying to create some space between us, but there wasn't much room to begin with. My knee brushed against his thigh this time. Neither of us moved away. That was the problem. Neither of us was stopping this. Dominic. I started, but I had no idea what I was going to say. He beat me to it. Careful. With what? Overthinking. I let out a short breath. Easy for you to say. Is it? I looked at him again. Big mistake. Because now he wasn't even pretending to focus on the panel. He was watching me. And the intensity of it, it wasn't subtle anymore. You don't look very relaxed either, I pointed out. He tilted his head slightly. I'm working. Right. Another small pause. Then, without breaking eye contact, he said, Hand. What? Give me your hand. My stomach dropped. That's not part of fixing the lights. Just give it to me, Thomas. There it was again. That tone. Calm. Controlled. Not forcing, but not really asking either. I hesitated. I should have said no. I should have laughed it off. But instead, I slowly shifted the flashlight to my other hand and held out the one that had been shaking earlier. He took it immediately. Firm grip. Warm. His thumb brushed lightly over my knuckles, like he was checking something. Or pretending to. You're tense, he said. I told you I'm not. You are. His grip tightened just slightly. Not enough to hurt. Just enough to make me very aware of it. And you're still shaking. I'm not. You are, he repeated, softer this time. His thumb moved again. Slow. Deliberate. Definitely not necessary. My breath hitched before I could stop it. He noticed. Of course he did. His eyes flicked up to mine again, catching every reaction I was trying and failing to hide. See, he murmured. That word felt heavier than it should have. I swallowed hard. Dominic. Yeah. This isn't professional, he finished. I nodded. He considered that for a second. Then, no, he agreed. And somehow, that made it worse. Because he wasn't denying it. He wasn't backing off. If anything, he leaned in just a little closer. Close enough that I could feel his breath now. Still want me to stop? He asked quietly. And that was the moment everything tipped. Because I opened my mouth to say yes. I really did. But nothing came out. And I think that told him everything he needed to know. The silence after that question stretched longer than it should have. Still want me to stop? I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, loud, uneven, completely giving me away. My hand was still in his thumb resting against my skin like he'd decided it belonged there. Say yes. That's what I should have said. But I didn't. And Dominic noticed. Of course he did. There was a subtle shift in his expression, not a smile, Not anything obvious, but something settled in his eyes. Like he'd just confirmed a suspicion. Yeah, he murmured, almost to himself. That's what I thought. My throat felt dry. You're making a lot of assumptions. Am I? His grip adjusted slightly, his fingers sliding more securely around mine. Not tighter, just more certain. You didn't answer, he added. I forced a breath out. You didn't really give me time. I gave you enough. That was the problem. He had. And we both knew it. I tried to pull my hand back, then just a small movement, but he didn't let go. Not immediately. His fingers held for half a second longer, just enough to make it clear that he was aware of what I was trying to do. Then he released me. Slowly. Like it was his decision, not mine. I pulled my hand back, suddenly unsure what to do with it. I went back to holding the flashlight, even though the angle was already fine. Anything to avoid looking at him. But that didn't last long. Thomas. I hated how my name sounded in his voice. Yeah. Look at me. I didn't want to. Which is exactly why I did. Big mistake. Because he was closer now. Not by much, but enough. Enough that I hadn't even noticed him shifting. You don't have to pretend, he said quietly. Pretend what? That this is just about the lights. My grip tightened on the flashlight again. It is about the lights. Right. That one word carried way too much disbelief. I exhaled sharply. You're the one making it weird. I'm reacting to you. That doesn't make sense. It does, he said calmly. You just don't like it. I shook my head. You don't even know me. I know enough. My stomach flipped. Oh yeah. I challenged. What exactly do you think you know? He leaned in slightly. Not touching. Just close enough to make the space between us feel intentional. That you didn't pull your hand away the first time, he said. I opened my mouth. Or the second, he added. I stopped. Because he wasn't wrong. And you're still here. He finished, his voice lower now. I swallowed. I'm holding a flashlight. You could have put it down. I didn't have a response to that. Because again, he wasn't wrong. The air between us felt heavier now. Thicker. Like every second stretched longer than it should. Neither of us moved. Neither of us broke it. Then, the lights flicked on. Bright. Sudden. Blinding after the dimness we'd been sitting in. I flinched slightly, instinctively lowering the flashlight. Dominic leaned back, like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't just been. Whatever that was. There, he said, glancing up at the ceiling. That should do it. Just like that. Back to normal. Or at least, pretending to be. I blinked, trying to catch up with the shift. Already? I asked. Yeah. He stood up, stretching slightly, his shirt pulling tight across his back again like before. Except now I noticed it more. Way more. I stood up too, a little slower. The distance between us should have made things feel normal again. It didn't. If anything, it made it worse. Because now there was space. And all I could think about was how there hadn't been any a second ago. Try the switches, he said. I turned toward the wall, flipping one. Light. Another. Also working. Looks good, I said. I turned back to him. He was already watching me. That same look again. Calm. Focused. Unreadable, but not really. Anything else? I asked, immediately regretting how that sounded. Because it didn't sound like I meant the lights. And he knew it. His head tilted slightly. Depends, he said. On what? On whether you want there to be. My chest tightened again. God. This guy? You're really bad at the whole professional thing, I said. Never claimed I was good at it. That's not reassuring. A small smirk. Didn't think you needed reassurance. I let out a quiet breath. Dominic. Yeah. I hesitated. Because I didn't know what I was about to say. Or what I wanted the answer to be. But he didn't rush me this time. Didn't push. Just stood there, watching, waiting. Like he knew I'd say something eventually. And the worst part? He was right. I don't know what I was about to say. That's the honest part. I just knew I couldn't keep standing there in that weird in-between space where everything had already crossed a line, but neither of us had actually said it out loud. Dominic, I started again. He didn't interrupt this time. Just watched me, waiting. And somehow that made it worse. I exhaled slowly. You do this with everyone you fix lights for? There was a flicker of something in his expression. Not offense. More like amusement. No, he said. Good. I muttered, even though I didn't know why that mattered. A small pause. Then he added, just the ones who look at me like that. My stomach dropped. I don't. You do. He said it so calmly, like it wasn't even up for debate. I shook my head, but it felt weak. You're reading too much into it. Am I? Yes. He took a step closer. Not rushed. Not aggressive. just deliberate. And suddenly we were right back where we started. Too close. Again. You get quiet, he said. What? When you're thinking too much, he continued. Like right now. I swallowed. Maybe I just don't know what you want me to say. I didn't ask you to say anything. That hit harder than it should have. Because he was right. This wasn't about words anymore. It hadn't been for a while. Then what do you want? I asked, my voice lower now. He didn't answer right away. His gaze dropped briefly to my lips, then back up. Subtle, but not subtle enough. That depends, he said. On what? On whether you're going to keep pretending you don't feel this. My chest tightened. You don't even know what I feel. I don't need to. That confidence again. That certainty. It was frustrating. And somehow, grounding at the same time. You're really sure of yourself? I said. I usually am. That's not always a good thing. Hasn't failed me yet. I let out a quiet breath, shaking my head slightly. You're unbelievable. And you're still standing here. That shut me up. Because again, he wasn't wrong. I could have stepped back, told him to leave, ended it right there. But I didn't. And he knew it. Thomas, he said, softer now. There was a shift in his tone. Less teasing. More direct. I looked at him. Bad idea. Again. Because now it felt different. Less like a game. More like something real was about to happen. If I step closer, he said quietly, are you going to move? My heart slammed hard against my ribs. That's a very specific question. Answer it. I hesitated. Of course I did. But not for long. No. It came out almost under my breath. But he heard it. Of course he did. Another small shift. Closer. Not touching. Not yet. But the space between us was barely there now. I could feel his presence, solid and steady right in front of me. Okay, he said. And then, he closed the distance. Not fast. Not slow. Just enough. His hand came up, not grabbing, not forcing, just resting lightly at my side, like he was giving me one last chance to step away. I didn't. I couldn't. My breath caught as he leaned in slightly, close enough that I could feel it. That same calm control. That same quiet intensity. Still good, he murmured. I nodded. That was all it took. His lips brushed mine. Soft at first. Testing. Like he was waiting to see if I'd pull back. I didn't. If anything, I leaned in. Just slightly. And that was it. That was the moment everything shifted for real. Because the second I responded, something in him changed too. His hand tightened just a little at my side, grounding me there as the kiss deepened, still controlled, still deliberate, but no longer tentative. And suddenly, the lights were the last thing on my mind. The moment his lips touched mine, everything else faded out. Not in some dramatic, movie-like way, no sparks, no fireworks, but in that quiet, overwhelming way where your brain just stops trying to keep up. I didn't expect it to feel like that. Grounding. Like everything that had been building for the past 20 minutes finally had somewhere to go. Dominic didn't rush it. That was the first thing I noticed. He didn't push, didn't take more than I was giving. His hand stayed at my side, steady, like he was making sure I stayed right where I was, not trapped, just there, present. I exhaled softly against him, and that's when he pulled back, just slightly, not breaking it completely. Hey, he murmured, his voice lower now, softer than before. It hit differently. Hey, I replied, a little breathless. We stayed like that for a second, close enough that I could still feel the warmth of him, but with just enough space to actually look at each other. And yeah, that was almost worse. Because now there was no distraction, no flashlight, no broken lights. Just us. You okay? He asked. I blinked, thrown off by the question. Yeah. What? You went quiet again. I let out a small, nervous laugh. I think that's just my thing. Yeah, he said, studying me. I noticed. There was no teasing in his voice this time. Just attention. And for some reason, that made my chest tighten more than anything else. I didn't expect that, I admitted. The lights? He asked, one eyebrow lifting slightly. I huffed out a quiet laugh. No. You. That got a faint smile out of him. Small. Brief. But real. Fair, he said. Silence settled again, but it wasn't awkward. Just full. Like there was more to say, but neither of us was rushing to fill it. I shifted slightly, suddenly aware of how close we still were. Do you always do that? I asked. Fix electrical problems? He replied. I gave him a look. He held it for a second, then shook his head. No, he said simply. Something about that answer felt important. Good. I muttered again, quieter this time. He noticed. Of course he did. You like that it's not something I do with everyone? He asked. I hesitated. Yeah, that was honest. Too honest, maybe. But I didn't take it back. He nodded slightly, like he'd expected that answer. Then his hand shifted still at my side, but more relaxed now. Less like he was holding me there. More like he just didn't feel the need to move away. Thomas, he said after a moment. Yeah, you overthink everything, don't you? I sighed. You've known me for like an hour. And I'm still right. I couldn't argue with that. So what? I said, trying to lighten it a bit. You're just going to call me out all night? Depends how long I stay. My pulse picked up again. That sounds like a loaded answer. It is. Of course it was. I shook my head. But I was smiling now, even if I didn't fully realize it. Your trouble, I said. Yeah, he replied spokojna. You figured that out pretty fast. Another pause. But this time, it felt easier. Less tense. Still charged, but not overwhelming. Just enough to keep my attention locked on him. So, I said, glancing toward the now working lights. Everything's fixed. Yeah. And you're still here. I am. Right. I nodded slowly, like that clarified anything. It didn't. Not really. But I also wasn't asking him to leave. And he wasn't offering to, which probably said more than anything else. He tilted his head slightly, watching me again. That thing you were about to say earlier, he said. I frowned. What thing? He gestured vaguely between us. Oh, right. That. I hesitated. Then exhaled. I don't even remember, I admitted. That's not true. He said it so casually. Like he already knew. I looked at him, narrowing my eyes slightly. You're very confident for someone who just met me. And you're still here proving me right. I rolled my eyes, but I didn't step back. Didn't break the distance. Didn't end it. And I think that's when it really settled in. This wasn't just a random moment anymore. It wasn't just tension or curiosity. It was something that had already started. And neither of us was pretending otherwise anymore. Stay a little longer, I said before I could overthink it. The words just slipped out. But once they did, I didn't regret them. Not even a little. For a second, I thought he might say no. Not because he wanted to leave, but because Dominic didn't seem like the type to just stay. He had that controlled, in and out kind of energy. Do the job, don't get involved, don't blur lines. Except he already had. So when I said, stay a little longer, and the words just hung there between us, I half expected him to shut it down. Instead, yeah, he said. Simple. Easy. Like it wasn't a big deal. But something in his tone shifted again. Less guarded. And I felt that way too. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Okay. Neither of us moved right away. We were still standing close. Closer than people who had just met had any business being. But now it felt different. Not tense in that sharp, uncertain way. More like a quiet understanding had settled in. So what now? I asked, glancing around like I suddenly remembered this was still my apartment. Dominic followed my gaze, then looked back at me. You tell me. That answer shouldn't have affected me as much as it did. But it did. Because for the first time since he walked in, he wasn't leading. He was waiting. On me. I rubbed the back of my neck, suddenly aware of how casual everything felt and how not casual it actually was. I mean, I was watching something before the lights died, I said. Was it good? Not really. Then don't put it back on. I huffed a quiet laugh. Fair. Another pause. But not awkward. Just figuring things out. Do you want something to drink? I asked. Water's fine. I nodded and stepped past him toward the kitchen. That small movement creating actual distance felt weirdly noticeable. Like I could still feel him behind me even when I wasn't looking. I grabbed a glass, filled it, then hesitated for a second before grabbing one for myself too. When I turned back, he hadn't moved much. Still near the same spot. Still watching me. I walked back over, handing him the glass. Thanks. Our fingers brushed again. This time it felt less accidental. Less surprising. But no less noticeable. I leaned back slightly against the counter, taking a sip of water just to give myself something to do. So, I said, glancing at him. Do you always end up staying at your clients' apartments? No. That's reassuring, I muttered. He tilted his head slightly. You keep saying that. Because it is. He took a sip, then set the glass down on the counter beside him. I don't usually get asked to stay, he added. I raised an eyebrow. You saying this is on me? I'm saying you invited me. That was technically true. Still, you could have said no. I could have, but you didn't. No, he said, steady. I didn't. There it was again. That quiet certainty. I shook my head slightly, a small smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. You're very direct. You're not. Hey, you think too much, he cut in, not harshly. Just stating it. I sighed. You've mentioned. And I'm still right. I didn't argue this time. Because yeah, I leaned my head back slightly, looking at the ceiling for a second before glancing back at him. You don't overthink things? I asked. No. Ever. No. That sounds fake. It's not. How is that even possible? He shrugged slightly. I decide what I want. Then I act on it. Simple. Too simple. And that works. I asked. Usually. I studied him for a second. You decided to kiss me. Yeah. You didn't think about it at all? I did, he said. I paused. Wait, really? Yeah. That caught me off guard. For how long? A few seconds. I let out a quiet laugh. That's your version of thinking it through? Was enough. I shook my head, still smiling. That's insane. It worked, didn't it? I didn't answer right away. Because, again, he wasn't wrong. And he knew it. Thomas, he said after a moment. Yeah. You regret it? That question landed heavier than everything else. The room felt quieter again, more focused. I met his eyes. And this time, I didn't hesitate. No, I said. His expression didn't change much, but something in his shoulders relaxed slightly. Good, he replied. And the way he said it. It wasn't relief. It was certainty, like he already knew what my answer would be. I exhaled softly, looking down at my glass for a second before back at him. This is kind of crazy, though, I admitted. Yeah, you just showed up to fix my lights. Still did that. That's not the point. I know. Another small pause. Then, but you're still here, he added. I looked at him. Yeah, I said quietly. I am. And for once, that felt like enough. It should have felt awkward after that. Two strangers standing in my kitchen, a half-finished glass of water between us, acting like something normal had just happened. But it didn't. If anything, it felt steady. Not calm exactly, but grounded. Like whatever tension had been building earlier had finally settled into something clearer. I set my glass down, fingers lingering on the edge for a second before I let go. Dominic was still watching me. Not in that intense, assessing way from before. Just present. You're quieter now, he said. I let out a small breath. I think I'm catching up. With what? Everything that just happened in, like, 30 minutes. He gave a faint nod. That's fair. I leaned back against the counter again, crossing my arms loosely. You're not even a little thrown off? I asked. No. Seriously? Yeah. I narrowed my eyes slightly. You're either really good at hiding it or completely unbothered. Second one. Of course it is. A hint of a smirk. I shook my head, but there was no real frustration behind it anymore. Just curiosity. You do realize this is weird, right? I said. Weird doesn't mean bad. I didn't say it was bad. Didn't say you did. I exhaled through my nose, glancing away for a second before looking back at him. Okay, fair. Another pause. But now it felt easier to sit in it. Less like we were waiting for something to happen. More like we were both aware that something already had. So what happens now? I asked. Dominic didn't answer immediately. He shifted slightly, resting one hand against the counter, closer to me now, but still giving me space. That depends, he said. On what? On whether you want this to just be tonight. My chest tightened slightly. Or something more. He didn't say that part out loud. But it was there. Clear as anything. I looked at him, really looked this time. Tried to figure out what he meant by that. What he expected. What I expected. I don't even know what this is yet, I admitted. Neither do I. That surprised me. You don't? I asked. No. He held my gaze. Steady. I just know I didn't want to leave. That hit harder than I expected. I swallowed, looking down for a second before back at him. Yeah, I said quietly. Same. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't uncertain. It felt like something settling into place. Dominic shifted just slightly closer. Not enough to crowd me. Just enough to make it clear he was still there. Still choosing to be. Then we don't have to figure it out right now, he said. I let out a breath I didn't realize I needed. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That felt right. Simple. No pressure. No labels. Just staying in the moment. I glanced toward the living room, then back at him. Do you at least want to sit? I asked. A small nod. Yeah. We moved almost at the same time, walking into the living room. It felt different now. The space didn't feel empty anymore. Not like it had earlier. I sat down on the couch, and after a second, he sat beside me not too close, but not far either. That careful distance again, like we were both aware of it. Testing it. Better lighting now, I said, glancing up. Yeah, he replied. A small pause. Then, you still shaking? He asked. I huffed out a quiet laugh. No. Good. I looked at him. You noticed that pretty fast earlier. I noticed things. Clearly. Another small silence. But then I felt it. His hand resting on the couch between us shifted slightly. Closer. Not touching. Just there. And this time, I was the one who closed the distance. Just a little. My fingers brushing against his. Light. Intentional. I didn't look at him right away. But I didn't pull away either. A second later. Neither did he. And somehow, that felt like the clearest answer we'd had all night. I don't remember exactly who moved first after that. Just that the space between our hands disappeared completely. My fingers settled against his, not rushed, not hesitant anymore. Just there. And when his hand shifted slightly, turning just enough to meet mine properly, it felt like something quiet but definite locked into place. No tension, no second guessing, just a choice. I let out a slow breath, leaning back into the couch. This is still kind of crazy, I admitted. Yeah, Dominic said, just as calm as always. I glanced at him. You don't sound bothered at all. I'm not. You never are? Not when I'm sure. That word again. Sure. I shook my head slightly, but I was smiling. Must be nice. It is. A small pause. Then, you're getting there, he added. I looked at him. Getting where? Not overthinking every second. I huffed a quiet laugh. Don't push it. He didn't respond to that. Just watch me for a second longer. Not intense this time. Just steady. And I realized something. Earlier, everything about him felt overwhelming. Now, it didn't. It felt grounding. Like instead of pulling me off balance, he was the reason I wasn't overthinking as much anymore. Which was new. And honestly, kind of terrifying. You're different, I said before I could stop myself. His brow lifted slightly. How? I don't know, I admitted. You just are. He didn't argue. Didn't question it. Just accepted it like everything else. Same to you, he said. That caught me off guard. Me? Yeah. How? You invited me to stay. I opened my mouth. Then closed it again. Because yeah, that wasn't exactly something I usually did. Fair, I muttered. Silence settled again, but it felt full. Comfortable. Not empty like before he got here. I glanced toward the now working lights, then back at him. You actually fixed it, by the way, I said. I know. You don't even sound proud. It's my job. Still. He shrugged slightly. You're welcome. I smiled a little. Thanks. Another quiet moment. Then, do you always call someone this late? He asked. Only when my apartment starts falling apart. Convenient timing. I narrowed my eyes. You think this was planned? No, he said spokana. Just worked out. Yeah, it did. I leaned my head back slightly, staring at the ceiling again for a second. Then I said it. Without overthinking. I'm glad you came. The words hung there. Simple. Honest. Dominic didn't answer immediately. But when I looked at him, there it was again. That subtle shift. That almost smile he didn't fully show. Yeah, he said. Me too. And for once, there wasn't anything complicated about it. No tension to figure out. No question hanging in the air. Just that. Two people who weren't planning anything, but weren't walking away either. I glanced at our hands again, still loosely together, still easy. Then back at him. So what happens next? I asked quietly. He looked at me. Not intense. Not unreadable. Just present. We'll figure it out, he said. And somehow, that felt like exactly the right answer.